Now, what you're here for today is accelerating cost savings using AI and ProcureGPT. And so I am so excited. We have a new company here, DSilo. If you don't know these folks, you need to. They are world class and they're so innovative. So I have the opportunity to introduce you to our speakers today. So first up, I'd like to welcome on screen is Sharad Malhotra. He's the co-founder and CEO of DSilo. He has over 15 years of procurement and supply chain transformation experience in helping enterprise with cost savings and working capital improvements initiatives through technology. Along with his DSilo team members, Sharad has filed three patents in AI-related technologies within two already granted by the USPTO. He is brilliant. And with him today, just as brilliant as Jay Gutta, I forgot to ask you how to say it, 20 years experience in building scalable enterprise products and platforms. Jay has extensive experience in leading cross-technology distributed teams to build enterprise-grade technology platforms that augment existing enterprise IT investments and drive substantial business benefits. Now, he has also filed 3 patents in AI-related technologies, with 2 already granted by the USPTO. Didn't I tell you we have some wicked smart people? And last but certainly not least is Neil Burton. Neil and I were just joking. I think we've known each other going on 30 years. Neil was formerly a global procurement practice leader at EY, and he spent 30 years plus helping enterprises transform their procurement organizations. He is definitely a thought leader and influencer in procurement technology. He's actively advising Fortune 500 companies and their executives on how to leverage disruptive technologies like AI to drive accelerated value for the business. So, folks, I want to make one thing clear. This is called a solution deep dive. Okay, this is not just thought leadership, which means there will be a demo, which means it might come across a little bit more commercial, but this is what you intended when you signed up for it. So this is a solution deep dive. So don't complain that they're taking you into the solution, and they're going to be showing your solution. And we would love for you to put your questions into Q&A. Please don't put them in chat because they will get lost. Please put them in Q&A, and then we will attempt to get to every question by the end of today's webinar. If we don't, they have promised, Sharad and Jay and Neil have promised that they will follow up with you and make sure you get the answers to your questions. So with that, I want to welcome DSilo, and I want you guys to take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Dawn. Hello, everyone. Perfect. Hello, everyone, and thank you for making the time to attend this webcast today. We are super excited to share with you our perspective of AI in procurement and how it can be a value accelerator for your companies. We will plan to spend majority of our time in thought leadership. Our idea to show you a solution is also to help you make AI into life and how you can kind of use that within your organizations. So it's a really packed agenda. I'll give a really quick intro on DSilo, our mission and objectives. And then Neil is going to talk about why we really need AI in procurement, how the procurement organization has been evolving, and how AI can really help achieve those business objectives. And then Jay is going to geek out with us on generative AI, large language models, and how that's changing the game and what makes it so different in the world of procurement today. And then I'll come back. I'll share with you some use cases that you can start using within your organization today. Some certain use cases which you can use to start thinking through about where are the areas where AI technology can start accelerating the cost saving and working capital improvement agendas that you may have. And then we love to show you a live demo of ProcureGPT, the power of generative AI and how it can actually drive those use cases that I talk about. And then we'll leave you with some pointers on what you should be thinking about as you start looking at different AI use cases and how when you start getting along your AI journey. And we love questions and we love answering those questions. So we're going to try our best for keeping as much time as we can towards the end to answer as many questions. And as Dawn said, the ones we cannot, we'll be happy to follow up and answer those. We love this area. We geek out on this all the time, and we love to answer as many questions and help you in the journey you're on as well. Perfect. So a bit about DSilo. So we are a procurement AI company with a mission to reduce costs and improve contract and spend compliance across your enterprise. We believe we are the best AI company in procurement because we are not a bunch of technology and AI folks who started a procurement company, but really a bunch of procurement folks who decided to go start an AI company based on the needs that we saw in the world of procurement. We have a really large technical team comprising of PhD data scientists who have deep understanding of procurement data and what it takes to build very procurement-specific large language models. And Jay's going to talk to you guys about large language models and how they become so relevant when you build procurement-specific large language models. Of course, we have a bunch of patents and more on the way. And as we continue this journey, but we also take enterprise security very seriously, both for our existing customers and our future customers. We are not only SOC 2 Type 2 certified, but also are HIPAA compliant, and very proud of our partnership we have with Microsoft. So we're part of Microsoft's Pegasus program, and I really thank many of the Microsoft folks who decided to join and support us during the webinar today. Part of this program, we believe we are the only procurement and supply chain company which is in the Pegasus program today. So Microsoft's not only working with us jointly to build cutting edge AI that can be used in the area of procurement, but more importantly, they're taking this out to their customers. So if you use Microsoft, do reach out to your account managers and see how Microsoft can actually, you can use your Azure commitments to use DSilo against. The three areas that we at DSilo really focus on when we look at AI in procurement and the value and benefits we like to provide to our customers is around reducing cost and optimizing spend, helping our customers use AI to improve productivity and business impact. And finally, the area we are all looking for, helping increase compliance and reduce the overall supplier risk. So with that, I'll actually hand it off to Neil, who's going to talk about how the world of procurement is evolving and how does AI fit in that journey. Go ahead, Neil.
Thank you, Sharad. So, why do we need AI in procurement? I think that generative AI is going to transform the way that procurement is executed over the next few years, as it's going to have the similar impact in other parts of our lives. Dawn mentioned I've been in this space for a long time, and I've seen the function adopting technology along the way. Starting off with P2P, evolving into focus on cost and doing e-sourcing, RFPs, e-auctions, spend intelligence, and now really more. I think procurement organizations serve as a business partner with a much broader responsibility and much more complex and dynamic responsibilities to their business. So now we're seeing procurement not only taking care of transactions and taking care of cost out every year, but there's a focus on risk management, on supply certainty. There is a focus on compliance, GDPR and the German Supply Chain Act. There's a focus on sustainability and understanding Scope 3 from your suppliers. So it's all become a lot more complicated. And from my perspective, systems are still trying to keep up with the breadth of responsibility that procurement has. We're still doing the transactions, we're still doing the spends, but we're not really integrated. There's best of breed solutions that people are using for CLM or for SRM, for spend intelligence. But these systems are not all integrated and they're not talking together. So we've ended up with this kind of Swiss cheese. We can execute procurement, but we're not fully integrated. And I think that generative AI is going to be the tool that we're going to use to, in many cases, close that gap, close those holes. And the good thing about the generative AI is I think it's going to enable us to manage our function end to end in a much more effective manner. But it's very agile, it's very cost effective, it's non-intrusive, it builds on the legacy systems. So it's going to be much easier to adopt than some of these other technologies have been. And Sharad and Jay will talk about some specific examples. But as we've been talking to clients, a couple of things that have jumped out at me as examples where we can use AI and satisfy needs that we haven't been able to satisfy before. We've got a hospitality company, does a lot of construction, has complex contracts, complex invoices. The ability to reconcile those invoices against contracts has been a real challenge up until now. AI can solve that problem. Understanding what items to put in your catalogs. It's hard to understand if you don't have line item detail. What are the common buys? AI can help solve that problem. You've got 200,000 contractual documents and you want to know how you're impacted by Russia and Ukraine. You can't plow manually through 200,000 contracts. AI can help you solve that problem. And in my mind, that's just the start. These are questions that can be answered today, but AI is going to help us move to lights out procurement in the future, because it can not only give you those insights, but then it can take action on those insights. So let's say you have you identify that you have contracts that are missing GDPR protections, and you want to act on that. Generative AI can take the steps necessary to create amendments, reach out to suppliers, monitor responses, answer questions, right? So we have the ability to do so much more with the machine, with the technology doing that work for us. And as I say, moving towards lights out procurement. So I think it's really exciting. I think it's going to be amazing what we see happen over the next few years. And Jay is going to talk a little bit more about the technology and how it's impacting procurement directly.
Thank you, Neil. So today I'm going to talk about so what is generative AI, how it is going to changing the game for enterprises, especially from the procurement point of view. So what is the difference? Before generative AI, we have the legacy technologies, not so legacy, but it's kind of old technologies like machine learning and all, right? So now with generative AI, there are more possibilities, it opens avenues for a lot of new innovations, right? So with the generative AI, so using the power of large language models, the generative AI can impact these three areas. Right. So the first is it can eliminate the data bottleneck. So nowadays, when as a procurement professional, if you want to get to your data, so you have a dependency. You depend on your data analysts or IT departments or external vendors in case if you are working with external vendors, right? So you go and ask them hey, I need this data. So they will take their own time to give you back the data that you need. So, but with generative AI, so once we feed the data into generative AI, so you will have real-time access to your data. So just like how you ask your data analysts or IT people, so you can go to the AI model and ask a question to get the data back. So, and it can give you instant answers, right? That is one where it can eliminate this data bottlenecks, and you have free access to the data that what you need. So once you have data in your hands, it will enhance your decision making, right? With a lot of insights. So one key thing is generative AI takes the context. It understands the context of the person who is asking this question, understand your business context, understand the whole procurement context. It can give you context-based answers to your questions. It can also go back to the data, your historical data, and identify the patterns, identify the trends. And it can present you back saying that hey, these are the patterns that I'm seeing in your data. So this all helps you to make further decisions and to improve your business. So that is one game changer. So with generative AI, the last is unlocks creativity and innovation. So with generative AI, so you have more possibilities now. For example, you can perform what if scenarios on your data. So during negotiation process with your vendors, you can perform those scenarios on the fly, and then you use those scenarios to negotiate with your vendors. So these are all very high level, 50,000 feet, how the generative AI is going to help procurement organizations. So now in this slide, I'm going to take you through a journey of this, what is the input of your data, how the DSilo ProcureGPT platform transform this data and give you these kind of outcomes on the right-hand side. So before talking about the right hand and left hand, first let me focus on the ProcureGPT. So the ProcureGPT is a technology that we are building using the latest modern architecture. So if you take any GPT, like, the transformer models or like chat GPT, like, all the buzz you are hearing in the market. So all these are developed using the transformer technology in the neural network, right? It's kind of a simulation of a human brain. So that technology is enable, like, people like the companies like us to build these large language models, adding, like, multi-head self-attention, decoder and encoder architecture, all different techniques, and build these large language models. So as DSilo, for ProcureGPT, we, on top of large language models, we fine-tuned that. So we did a lot of fine-tuning. We fed a lot of data into these large language models, which are very specific to procurement. And we created so many scenarios ourselves, like, with our team, and also, like, scenarios that we identified. So we trained these large language models to understand what is procurement, to identify, like, the issues within the procurement, and also to give you back, like, very procurement specific answers, like, to when you ask. So that is one layer we created on top of this large language model, which is very procurement specific. So on top of it, whenever we work with a customer, we take your data. So your data can be, like, as I am showing on the left-hand side. So your data could be documents like contracts, MSAs, SOWs, order forms. It could be any document which is very specific to procurement. And then on the other side, you might have, like, invoices, POs, your credit memos, deduction worksheets, like, or your any other related documents, like, on the finance side of it. So, and your data can be also in the ERP systems or your supplier systems, or it could be like AP systems. So all this data, it could be in any format. It could be in the format of a document, or it could be in format of, like, a structured database. So all this data can be feed into, like, this ProcureGPT platform. So where we take your data based on your business and also based on your use case, we can fine tune the large language model, DSilo ProcureGPT, like, using your data. That means you have an AI model which understands the broader area of procurement, which also has a broader knowledge of, like, the overall semantics of English, right? So, and also, like, having the knowledge from the internet. So, and also it has the knowledge of procurement, and on top of it, it also has, like, will gain the knowledge of, like, your enterprise, right? So based on the data, the contracts that you feed in, it can identify, like, what are the different contracts, who are the different suppliers, like, and all, right? So these, after fine tuning of these large language models, now that becomes your enterprise brain, which can understand, like, your data, your documents. So after that, it can give these outcomes on the right hand side you see. So first thing is, like, it will give you instant access to your data, right? It can perform the extraction. For example, if there is a structured document, it can perform the ProcureGPT model, AI model, which is fine-tuned with your data. So can go into those documents just like a human being, right? So it just go and extract all the required, like, data from those documents, like clauses, like obligations, metadata, or like invoice header details, like, all that, and give you instant access to those data, right? That means if you want to find, like, all the contracts where there is no GDPR clause, so you don't have to open, like, all those documents, reading through and understanding where the clause is. You just go and simply ask a question. Hey, get me contracts with no GDPR clause. It will give you, like, a list of all the contracts in front of you. Right. So that's how, like, that's the benefit of, like, the outcome of this ProcureGPT platform. Once we fed your data into that, then you get that. These are all the other another benefit I would like to mention is, like, the semantic search. You can search your data by meaning, not just by keyword or key phrase, but meaning. Like, once you enter, for example, assignment, it can take that keyword and search for the meaning of that assignment and give you back data wherever there is a reference to the assignment, right? So these are all different possibilities. So another thing is, like, if you take efficient document summarization, for example. So if you give a large document, for example, we were working with one company, so they gave us a documents with, like, more than 100 pages. And they asked us, like, hey, give us, like, a snapshot with 1 or 2 pages. And we used this ProcureGPT AI model to summarize the document and give them back that summary in 1 or 2 pages. So that can become easy. It becomes very easy with this AI models, with generative AI. So then contract generation. So if you take nowadays, everybody the contract others, they go to CLM platforms, they can go and create contracts based on the templates, right? So, and in case if they want to put add a price table to the contract, so now they have to switch to a different system, get the price table, then plug into that the price table into the contract. Now with this generative AI and the ProcureGPT platform, so if you specify the context, and the AI model can generate a contract along with the data, pulling from different systems, give you back ready to execute contract almost, right? So that's a possibility with this. And also the contract standardization. So we have seen in some cases where customers, they see contracts, the clauses in the contracts are not standard. So then it is not easy to identify those contracts and make them standardized. So once you feed your goal template into the ProcureGPT, and then once you feed the contracts, so AI can work for you to give you a standard document, standardize all your contracts. So these are all possibilities. So maybe, yeah, please go to the next slide. Sure. Okay, so as we have this procurement brain, and also we fine-tune this ProcureGPT for several procurement-related tasks. So these are all assistants that we created using that as the base. So for example, if you take AI contract analyst, this is kind of your virtual assistant, which will take your contracts, extract all the insights. It also answer provide instant answers to any questions that you ask on those contracts. It can keep sending you alerts on the reminders in case if there is a renewal so coming up, so it can keep sending. So it can also help you in the contract negotiations. It can work as an assistant to you and to improve your productivity. So next one is spend assistant. So this spend assistant can take the invoices, the PDF documents coming from your vendors, and these can be in a different formats. Each vendor has their own specific format of an invoice, but this spend assistant can understand all those formats, can extract those invoice header details, line level details, and also not only extracting, it can classify those line level details. For example, if there is a tax, it classifies there as a tax, freight, right? So discounts. So it can classify each and every line item that comes in the invoice, and also categorize. So we use UNSPSC codes, right? So that is a common generic hierarchy that we use to categorize the spend, the SKU level data. So, and also we'll open to use your taxonomy. So in case if you want, so, but it has that it can categorize and give you complete analysis. So the AP assistant, it will help you as an AP clerk, it can take the PDF documents, directly ingest data, extract the data, and ingest data into your AP systems. AI buyer, it will help you in the negotiations. It will help you as to prepare from the RFQ onwards. It can help you in each and every step. So the contract other, as I mentioned, it can create draft contracts for you, reduce 90% of your work, so that you can focus on the very specific task that you are working on. So the finance assistant to help you to identify the working capital opportunities by analyzing all the data. So, and help you to gain that working capital. And we do have a procurement assistant. This list is not limited. So we have a generic procurement assistant, which can be fine-tuned for your, in case if you have a special need, so it can be fine-tuned to the special need. For example, tax assistant. So if you feed jurisdictions and tax codes, so now it can go and perform all that, identify all the tax from your documents, and make sure you get the right tax from your vendors. So it can help you, it can be fine-tuned for your own specific task. So yeah, please move on to the next slide. Okay, so we would like to mention more about on the security side. So security, and everybody has their minds hey, is my data safe? Whenever the people hear AI and data, they feel a little bit nervous, right? So here so at DSilo, once we receive data from the customers, we create a container, a very closed container, which is isolated from others. And we keep your documents and data inside the container, which can be accessed by only you and DSilo. Right. So, and your data won't be like leak outside of the DSilo platform. It won't be combined with any web data. So, and we use only the data for reinforcement learning, for the human feedback to improve your AI responses. Like, whenever, if you keep asking questions, we take those questions and we use to improve the AI response only for your AI models. We don't mix this data with any other customer AI models and all. And also from outside, we have this firewall in place. So it won't allow any internet data inside. It won't allow any outside users. It won't allow any external data feed into this AI platform. So your data is secure, it's a safe, in a secure environment for you guys. So that's all from my side. Thank you all. So I'm handing over to Sharath.
Thank you, Jay. And cannot reiterate more. Every customer we speak with, there's a very high concern on especially generative AI and how those AI models may be mixing the data. And I think one area that I encourage all of you to have those conversations as you get on the AI journey, where we have really mastered is making sure there is complete containerization of customer data and not mixing. So for example, if Jay asked ProcureGPT, how's the weather today? It's not going to be able to answer. But if you ask ProcureGPT, tell me some working capital improvement opportunities in my information technology category, the ProcureGPT, having the ability to have ingested a lot of your documents, would be able to analyze and give you an intelligent answer there. And that's something very important as you start your generative AI journeys as well, making sure your data is fully containerized. And your data does not get mixed with a lot of those external generative AI models, and making sure that the right technology architecture is in place that supports that. So taking this all information on large language models and moving one step up from a cost saving standpoint, wanted to share with you some of the use cases where you can actually apply all this knowledge and all this technology that we are talking about today. So I'm going to cover 4. I mean, it's an exhaustive list, but I'll start with 4 and hope at least one of these, you can take back and see if there's an application for you to apply as a use case. So first is around working capital improvement, where I'll talk to you about the importance of extracting pricing terms from documents and linking it to your actual payments to look at working capital improvement opportunities. Then, of course, I'll cover the age-old problem of purchase price variance. As we all know, purchase price variance occurs between contract to invoices, invoice to invoices, location to location, customer to customer. And that's something that, despite the advent of different technology stacks that have been in place for the last so many decades, still we all struggle with by adding a lot of humans to it. Then, of course, next we will talk about contract compliance and how you can use the power of large language models to really accelerate your compliance and risk journey. And lastly, we will talk about spend and AP intelligence. Large language models are totally rewriting the rule of traditional spend intelligence, and also helping increase productivity massively in the entire AP process. And we'll show you some examples on that as well. Perfect. So let me start off with working capital improvement. And we recently were speaking to the procurement leadership of a very large manufacturing company. And the procurement leadership said the CFO, like many CFOs out there, with interest rates going up, are looking for working capital improvement opportunities. And they are looking for opportunities within the supplier base or the supply organization, and wanted the procurement team to look at all the payment terms that existed across their suppliers against the actual payments that were being made. right? Sounds easy conceptually, but as we all know, the larger we get, the more siloed systems we adopt as an organization. You have all these pricing terms sitting in rate cards, work orders, deduction sheets, credit memos, MSAs, SOWs, licensing agreements, you name it, right? In maybe a CLM system, in some other contract repository, in somebody's email, right? And on the other side, you have a lot of systems, you have massive transactions, thousands and thousands of suppliers to whom you're paying on a daily basis. So the high volume of documents and transactions just makes it very cost prohibitive for this organization to go and link all of them together and get opportunities in terms of favorable or unfavorable working capital so that they can start releasing some. So that's where solutions like DSilo really come in handy. So you can use the power of large language models or procurement trade large language models to actually contextually read an army of these documents, extract all the relevant payment terms and link it back to the actual payments that are taking place. So you can then analyze what are those suppliers where you are having, or transactions where you may be having favorable terms versus unfavorable. And those unfavorable terms is where you can very quickly go and recover a lot of the working capital that is being lost for companies today. And here's an example. I know the screenshot's a bit small. We wanted to put a lot of content so you can read this slide afterwards as well. But this is an example where the AI actually looked at all the contracts, looked at all the payment terms, the actual payments, and on the fly, and also on an ongoing basis, is helping the CFO and the procurement organization evaluate where is the payment terms compliance not taking place, and under what agreements it's not taking place, under what transactions it's not taking place, also slicing it, dicing it by service category, contract types, and then helping create the right actions, which Jay will show as well, with generative AI can also do in terms of going back and recovering those working capital improvement. This is an area which a lot of CFOs are approaching to us. And as you work within your organization, and as there is a more and more ask for working capital improvement opportunities, going through your volume of contracts and SOWs and analyzing those payment terms against the actual transaction is definitely an area and a journey you can start today to help recover and get back cash for the organization, which is so critical in today's time. The other area which I'm going to talk a bit about is purchase price variance. This is a problem that has existed due to siloed systems within organizations, right? So we do a great job as sourcing folks to go and negotiate the right contracts and negotiate the right terms, negotiate the right pricing, the right rebates, the right discounts in our contracts. Then after those contracts are signed, they're either sitting in a CLM, a contract repository, or if you're signing those contracts in supplier paper, they're sitting in different supplier formats. And then the day-to-day business starts where you're issuing POs, issuing goods receipts, getting invoices, depending on the kind of spend you have, direct, indirect, or the type of spend you're doing. And then on an ongoing basis, you're just running the business. We have noticed on and again a massive gap between the terms that have been negotiated and agreed and the actual pricing that you're actually paying to your supplier. And for the top suppliers, most companies today have the right process discipline. They have basic automation tools. They have shared services locations where they are going and manually or using automation tools to look at the top suppliers, pricing, discounts, and trying to marry it. But fact of the matter is the volume of suppliers, the sheer volume of transaction makes it impossible to do it across your entire supplier base. And that's where, again, deep learning technologies like large language models and ProcureGPT become very relevant because the AI can actually read invoices, contracts, read line item details in depth, and then start matching those actual line item details contextually with the actual payments at a line level so that you can then start driving true opportunities where value leakage may be taking place. We are in fact working with several customers who are also using this from a supplier negotiation. So for example, we recently worked with a customer where they had over 110,000 line items for just a few suppliers in the facilities and maintenance category. And we were able to extract all that data to find purchase price variance in the invoices alone, which was used for better price negotiations by that by that customer. So that you can actually use these large language models to not only extract that data, but then analyze it to then go back and recover that value leakage and then use it for better pricing negotiations. The next area that is very applicable for large language models and newer generative AI technologies against the legacy ML AI technologies and CLM stacks that exist today is around contract compliance. We all know not all contracts go through a company paper. A lot of contracts go through a supplier paper and customer paper. And a lot of those contracts are having many different forms of formats. And we have had a lot of customers come to us who, despite having CLM systems, despite having contract repositories, want a greater view in terms of their clause library, in their clause analytics, in their rates, in their pricing. Whether do I have a GDPR clause? Is there an insurance clause that's missing? Do I have the right limitation of liability clauses? Do I have the right standard confidentiality clauses across my legacy and existing contracts? And you can then again use the power of trained large language models to then extract not only contextual information from all those contracts and documents, but then also use it as part of your compliance and risk journey. This approach also helps you accelerate any existing CLM implementations as well, because a lot of CLM implementations spend a lot of time taking your legacy information and using that to extract and feed your existing CLM. So by using large language models and techniques like ProcureGPT, you can actually extract the data and get real-time insights on an ongoing basis of what's going on with your contracts. And I will leave some of these outcomes, and we have some what are the potential opportunities and where a reduction, both in terms of cost savings, take place as a reading for you after the call. The last area which I just want to cover is around AP intelligence and spend. Having the ability to have line item details, from accurate line item details from your invoices, POs, credit memos, deduction worksheets, contracts, allows you to accelerate your spend visibility. There are lots of organizations today who use spend systems, but most of the spend data comes from the ERP, which may not have that line item detail that is required by your procurement and finance analysts to start driving those cost-saving opportunities. And by using the power of large language models, you can not only extract up to line-level data accurately, but you can then marry that more intelligently with your other data sets to start driving cost-saving opportunities automatically. So for example, we work with a customer today where they look at over 350,000 invoices on an ongoing basis. The AI not only extracts all the line item data, categorize it, classifies it for tax or freight on the fly without having the need of using ERP to build spend cubes, but also then massively improves the productivity of the AP team who do not have to do any manual coding before going to GL. So these are some examples where you can start experimenting with large language models and generative AI today. Leave the team with some pointers as when you start off in your AI journey, right? What are the things that you need to be focused on? So step number one, identify only those cost-saving, compliance, or risk opportunities within your procurement, finance, or legal area, which augment your existing existing IT systems and don't replace them as step one. You have spent a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of money, but God knows how much of change management and white hair in implementing those systems today, right? So it's really important you find what are those gaps that you have in those systems today where AI can fill, and then use the power of AI to fill those gaps, right? And that's also the name of DSilo came. The idea is to find those gaps and help you identify those gaps and then use the power of this to augment. But that's something you should do on your own. The second, AI is a new paradigm. When we started building DSilo, I mentioned to you, we were not a bunch of tech guys building an AI company, but a bunch of procurement guys building an AI company. And that means a lot, because there are certain paradigms that come with traditional product and technology thinking, which have to be left behind when you're building an AI system. And be cautious of those products with the hype of AI, which are putting the splash of marketing of AI, and sending and implementing, because you need solutions which are ground up built from AI. And you will know that by step number 3. If the AI use case or solution that you are implementing takes more than a few weeks, is costly than any other legacy technology, then you know that you're implementing legacy technologies with a patch on AI on it. AI systems should not take too much time, should not take too much cost to implement, right? And that's the beauty of AI. And the last is proceed with those use cases which give you quick outcomes. And I hope some of the use cases that are shared with you today are some pointers of the areas you need to dive in. And that helps your organization, because then you can get quick wins. And as you get those quick wins, you can use that to get the support from your leadership, and then even augment your journey, your cost saving and working capital improvement journey that you may have. Lastly, I'll just leave you guys with one slide. This is just our approach on how we accelerate our client's journey. We generally spend a week with a customer understanding where they need to be applying AI. We spend close to 2 weeks to just implement a use case for them. And 4 weeks onwards, we start getting different results and benefits. And of course, more importantly, we love to leave our customers with the AI work of working, right? Helping them adopt that working that helps them then kind of accelerate that journey internally. Perfect. I think that's all I have, Dawn, Destiny. Love to answer as many questions as we can from the audience.
Well, we only have 4 minutes. And folks, we are going to stop at the top of the hour because we've only asked for 1 hour of your time today. But do I have a promise from the 3 of you? You will respond to all of these questions in writing, and we can send it out to everyone. Okay, good. So your questions are not lost. So we've got 18 of them in queue. We are not possibly going to get through those. So first question, can generative AI identify unclean data?
Jay?
Yes, it can. So we actually doing this for one of the clients. So the data that we extracted from their documents is not clean data, as you know, right? So the AI is not only identifying the unclean data, it can also clean the data and give you a clean output. So that is definitely possible with generative AI.
So I believe this is the client where you're literally rebuilding the master data stack because the master data was all over, and you're using the power of AI to take the contract and invoice data and clean up the master data. Perfect.
Okay. How does DSilo ensure that the AI data is accurate or sourced from a reliable / trackable source?
Wow. These are all Jay questions. Jay, go ahead.
So the data that goes into so the DSilo platform, the data comes from the enterprises, right? That is your enterprise data. So once we get the data, and we are not going to mix the data with any other internet data. So we use the knowledge, but not the actual data. So that means if you have clean data feeding into the system, or if AI clean the data, so you don't see that problem with this large language models. So.
Can someone explain the word generative? What does it stand for in this AI context? And this will probably be our last question.
So generative means it's more of generating new content. For example, in this case, the contract authoring, right? So the large language model is generating a new contract. It based on the knowledge that it gained during the training. So it can generate a new text, generate a new image, or even it can create a new video. These are all generate the new content, and that's the meaning of that.
And just add to that, how do you use it in the world of procurement? you're always generating intelligence, right? As procurement, you're looking for, how can I get the best pricing from my suppliers? How can I find the best opportunities for cost saving? How can I find where are those opportunities where I am double paying or I have issue, I'm not getting my discounts, and all of that intelligence is generated by you guys. And that's the beauty of how you use generative AI in procurement, by taking that data and using that to generate intelligence that then you can use to drive the business objectives within your organization.
Got it. This will be the last one. Can you provide an example of what a large language model is? I think that's a very important one.
So, okay, DeSilo has a large language model. Okay, but Jay, talk a bit generic large language models that you generally use to adopt. You can provide that insight.
So probably if you take ChatGPT, like OpenAI, that is one example of LLM. So if you take Llama 2, that is from Meta, that is another example of large language model. Falcon, T5, there are so many large language models in the market. So
but it is important to remember these large language models is like an MBA who's just graduated from a business school. But an MBA from a business school cannot be a CFO or CPO of your company. He needs years of experience and context. And that's when you take large language models and you build another layer of a domain specific language. And that's what Sam Altman, I believe, said one day, had once also mentioned. And that's what you need to do stuff like what we are doing at ProcureGPT, to take large language models, but then build a very domain specific expertise, because only then can you drive actionable intelligence in a specific area like we are trying in procurement.
That's awesome. So guys, we don't have time for the rest of the questions, but folks, if you still have oh my gosh, now we're up to 24 questions. They're still popping in because they want them answered. So I want to thank DeSilo. I want to thank the three of you. It was fantastic. You are going to be shaking up the world of procurement. There is no doubt. So with that, it is the top of the hour. Thank you to the founders of DeSilo and to Neil for bringing us such an amazing piece of technology. And like I said, the questions are still flying. I'm going to leave this open for just a minute. So if you have a question that you want to make sure gets answered, it will get in the download. But when we send you out the webinar, you'll also have the contact information for today's speakers. And please reach out, keep the conversation going, because this is some exciting stuff. And thank you both for being here today, and the three of you. It was fantastic. And I so appreciate your insights, your knowledge, and your amazing technology.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And folks, join us again for our webinar series. These are our power hours, and this was a solution deep dive brought to you by DeSilo. So thank you so much, DeSilo.